Here we go, folks. The New York Jets have opened Aaron Rodgers' 21-day practice window, which means the Jets will have the next 21 days to decide whether Rodgers will be activated from injured reserve. Remember, he tore his Achilles just 79 days ago. He turns 40 on Saturday.
This isn't so much getting ready to play as much as it is a progression in his rehab. I can get in all the detail with regards to IR designations and all that and where we stand and why we're able to do this. But for Aaron, what he will be doing in practice is no different than what he'd be doing on Field 3 as you guys all watch it. With regards to certain drills and individual, being able to throw it, instead of throwing with staff members, he's throwing with teammates. So there's no added risk to it. There's certain things that he's been cleared for that we're going to allow him to do.
And from our friend Mike Garafolo from the NFL Network, the vibe I've gotten the whole time is even if Aaron Rodgers doesn't make it back to the playing field this year, the Jets are fine with him pushing forward as much as he wants and doctors will allow. Helps his rehab and injects positive vibes into the building. We don't even need to inject positive vibes into the building because every time Luke Willson is on this monitor, the entire crew is excited. They're fired up for Luke who's talking. He's back. He looks great in the mustache. Luke, they're saying it's just a step in his rehab process. Now, Aaron Rodgers was on TSN's Pat McAfee show on Tuesday, makes his regular appearance. He said two things need to happen for him to come back. A, he obviously has to be healthy. And B, the Jets need to have a chance. Luke, the Jets are 4-7 and Tim Boyle is starting this week. I'm thinking they probably don't have a chance. But would you actually be surprised to see Aaron Rodgers in game action before the end of the season?
No, Jay, I would not. And you got to understand something about the Jets having a chance to make the playoffs. To you, to me, to all the fans, everybody pretty much on planet Earth outside of the Jets building, this team is done. They have no shot. But the NFL is made up of players and coaches who have a chip on their shoulder. I'm not talking about the all-stars, the all-pro players. I'm talking about the bulk of every single NFL team. You have guys in there that have been underdogs their whole life, that have a massive chip on their shoulder, and will continue to fight and grind and never give up. That's what the NFL is. And the reason I'm saying that is if you look at the Jets right now, again, do I think they'll make the playoffs? No. But in that building, I guarantee you, seeing Aaron come to practice today, and everything that they're reporting is correct. This is the standard progression. He goes on to Field 3, does some individual work. This is how every injury kind of rehabs back onto the field. But again, if you're one of those Jet players, you're sitting there, you're 4-7. Right now, the Colts have the 7 seed. No one believes that's going to stick. Jonathan Taylor's just out for 2 to 3 weeks with the Colts.
Yep. Now,
all of a sudden, you're looking at this game this week, and you say, we're playing the Falcons. It's a winnable game for them. It'll be tough because they have an awful offense. But defensively, they can create a few turnovers, get a few stops, make this a really gross kind of grind-type game. And now, all of a sudden, they're 5-7. And who do they have next week? The Houston Texans, who I think most people right now believe will probably get that 7 seed. And again, they have a lot more ground to make up. But if by some miracle those Jets players can find a way to beat Atlanta and then find a way to beat Houston, they're right back into the swing of this thing. And now all of a sudden you've got Aaron Rodgers, who's been practicing on a very limited role for 2 weeks. Again, is it likely, Jay? Absolutely not. But that's not going to be the mentality of the New York Jets players, especially after seeing Aaron Rodgers out there today slinging the ball around.
I love it. Excellent point by you. Maybe the opposite of Jets-Falcons this weekend, Luke, in Week 13, is 49ers-Eagles. What a matchup we have in the NFC. And this was interesting to me. San Francisco currently 2.5-point favorites. They're coming off a bye. They haven't played for 10 days. But the Eagles are 10-1, as you know, Luke. A little disrespect to the Eagles, perhaps?
I definitely think it's disrespectful, but it's warranted. Jay, you look at the way the Eagles have played, and I've been on your show. I like them to go to the Super Bowl, but I consistently say they have not played up to their potential, up to their standard. Now, their standard is extremely high, but they've also gotten a lot of fortunate bounces. You look at even last week against the Bills made a lot of crucial mistakes that you and me talked about on the show right after the game. So I could see how the people in Vegas look at this thing. They look at the Niners right now. They just absolutely demolished the Seahawks, who are a above average football team in this league. They're playing very, very well. They're healthy, where the Eagles have been able to scrape by, and this is their third game in a row where they've played a wildly tough team. I get it. It's disrespectful, but at the end of the day, the Eagles kind of deserve it. They have not played, super great in a lot of the games. And on the flip side, the Niners have played very, very well as of late.
You mentioned your Seahawks coming off a drubbing at the hands of the Niners. They've lost 3 of 4. But I actually want to focus on the Cowboys for that Thursday night matchup, because this Dallas Cowboys team, Luke, has yet to beat a team this season that's 500 or better. Now, they begin a stretch of 5 straight games coming up against teams that are 500 or better. How confident are you that Dallas is going to come through this stretch of games and be a legitimate Super Bowl contender?
Very confident, very confident. Do I think that they'll run the table? Absolutely not. It's not what I'm saying. But when you ask me if I think they'll be a Super Bowl contender after these games, my answer is yes. Here's the situation. Dak Prescott right now is playing outrageously well. I mean, right now, he's second in the league in QBR to Brock Purdy. This guy's doing everything. There's a few moments in the season, just very, very minute moments. You'd like him to maybe make a better decision. I go to the end of that Eagles game, for example. But outside of that, and even that moment is very correctable. He is playing wildly well and efficient. And then on the flip side, I mean, you've got a corner in Deron Bland right now who has set the NFL record for pick sixes. On the other side, on the other corner, you've got Stephon Gilmore, who, yes, he's older, but is still a very, very savvy vet, very smart, and a very, very talented player in this league. I haven't even mentioned Micah Parsons, who is a menace on this defense.
Yeah.
So when you look at the combination of guys that they have, you look at how well Dak Prescott's playing. Yes, this team is a Super Bowl contender, and anyone who says that they're not is outside of their mind. And I understand that the Cowboys have had issues in the past, and I can even, wrap my head around they haven't beat any good teams. They will beat some good teams within the next 5 games. Trust me on that.
Oh, let's talk about the rest of the NFC. I want to look at the playoff picture. I got to get your thoughts on this. The Packers sitting just outside of a wild card spot at 5-6 right now. The Packers, Luke, play the Chiefs on Monday. I want to play you this clip from our show this past Monday, featuring our mutual close friend and TSN resident opinionist, Brian Hayes.
Next Sunday night, Kansas City at Lambeau Field playing the Packers. Packers shock the world. They win that game. They go on a serious run because they got duds after that. They're playing brutal teams. They got a soft schedule. I think the Packers are going to make the playoffs.
I mean, Brian is always confident in his opinions, but this is like over the top. He's basically locking the Pack into one of those final wild card spots. Luke, are you as confident in the Pack as Brian Hayes is?
I like to say this about my dear friend Brian Hayes, but Brian Hayes is a fraud. That's a saying on the Overdrive, and that's a saying about this tape. Okay? Do I think they have an outside chance? Yes. All of a sudden, the Packers are considered a juggernaut. Did we watch Kansas City in the evolution of Rashee Rice last week? The guy had 8 catches for 107. They finally have a number 2. You think Patrick Mahomes is going to lose to Jordan Love? I think he might have said this in jest because he's a big Packer fan, but I have no confidence in that happening. And then on the flip side, do I think the Packers are good enough and have enough fundamentals to beat every quote-unquote dud team that they play? No. Do I think they'll be there in the conversation at the end of the year? Yes, it's going to take a couple bounces to go their way. I actually, and of course I'm biased here saying this, I think Seattle finds a way to beat one of these tough teams they're playing. And at the end of the year, their schedule lightens up a little bit as well. I think it'll be tight, but am I 100% confident the Packers will make the playoffs? Absolutely not.
There you go. This is what I love. Differing opinions, hot takes. That's what we're bringing to the network now, ladies and gentlemen. And by the way, that Chiefs-Packers game is Sunday, not Monday. I just got a little bit confused, but that's typical for this show. Luke, have you been talking to the boys as we show you our big game coming up Thursday night? It's the Thursday night between Seattle and Dallas. Been talking to the boys back in Seattle. I know you've been reading up on all the stuff Pete's been saying. This team is, they need this one so badly. How are they feeling going into it?
They're feeling great. Let me tell you something right now. Nobody gets guys ready like Pete Carroll for short weeks on Thursday night. These guys will be fresh. Also, he's a tremendous motivator, Jay. I actually like the Seahawks to really make this a tight game. Not to mention, we know Dan Quinn very, very well in Seattle. I think they'll have something dialed up for his defense.
There it is. And after the game, we will have Luke standing by to break it all down. Luke could be jumping on top of the desk in glee, or he could be hiding under the desk. You're not going to know unless you tune in after the game. We follow every primetime NFL game this season, and when we return after the break, more highlights. This is the Hot Take Show.